fitting to start with something that's not mine. I saw this tweet, and it characterizes, in my opinion, the state of the hybrid workspace at the moment. Whoever Alex Cohen is, he's joking and saying that his remote team was complaining about bad management, so he made them come to the office, and now they are complaining about the same thing in person. That can be restated as a problem that we see right now in the hybrid work environment. I brought, for great effect, I brought a magnifying glass with me, and I will be waving it around throughout the presentation, because it really turns out through everything that I have seen in the research that any deficiencies in management are multiplied by and magnified by the complexities of hybrid work. So I thought it was fitting to actually tell you a little bit about myself, to tell you why I feel that I should be talking to you about hybrid work. I think that I was made to reap the benefit of hybrid. I am an operations executive, and I have been doing hybrid work for more than a decade. I have been experiencing it in many stages. I was prepared for it by my background in science. I'm a nuclear physicist. I also have a degree in corporate finance. And I happen to be a refugee from communist Czechoslovakia who placed herself successfully in Canada, but I don't work in Canada. I mostly work with folks like you and all around the globe. And that it gives me a particular insight into the pain that the participants in hybrid workplace are feeling based on Alex Cohen's comment. I decided to solve the problem by actually creating an organization, a virtual work cooperative, that invites people in the trenches, the real practitioners, the ones that are out there working in hybrid, and asks them to share among themselves crowdsourced wisdom from what works for them and what doesn't. And what drove me were two objectives: to help the people out there, because there seems to be a lot of productivity lost needlessly, and secondly, we will watch the evolution of hybrid work go on for at least the next 10 years until it pans out somehow to something we never expected. So thank you for doing the tooling, but I want to be there running a longitudinal study, observing, documenting what's going on. So what does this cooperative do? It's by invitation only. And because I have a lot of background in statistics and research, I decided to get away from surveys, which is the typical tool out there. They are biased. They ask questions that lead you to an answer. And I decided to take on the virtual role of Barbara Walters, if you will. And I am interviewing hybrid work practitioners in 30-minute interviews where I let them, totally unbiased, I let them talk about what they want. And I'm observing and documenting trends that are coming out from a great variety of people. I have participants globally, New Zealand, Bali, India, and North America, of course, and all levels of management, where we basically categorize them in three levels: executives, team leaders, and then work participants. And I wanted to cover as many industries as I wanted. So I have a virtual piano teacher and numerous virtual work participants that are not what you would traditionally think as a hybrid worker. Turns out that there are common trends in all of this. I am, by the way, Jaymes caught me at doing interview 88 out of 100. So the research is not done yet, but I am sure that we will. You will see the breaking news here, and then we will complete it and see the results. So the thing that is becoming quite obvious from the research is that there is a lot of fragmentation out there. There's people like you and me who have been working in hybrid for 15 years. Then there are the ones that quote COVID as their trigger to actually become hybrid. And there is a wide variety of skill and also convenience in how they are applying hybrid. It's not settled. There is no standard practices. The other thing is that companies are emerging now that are 100% remote. This is obviously not a representative sample, but about a quarter of the respondents work for completely remote companies. And they all say, oh yeah, remote's really easy. Going to the office is easy. Hybrid, now that's hard. And I agree. So we need to figure out how to actually document what to do about that particular setup. So when you look at the average participant in the hybrid workplace today, it's exactly what Alex is saying. Now, if I had my way, I would have called this presentation this. There is a new sheriff in town, and her name is a hybrid team leader. It really comes very clear from the research that I have been doing and listening to all these interviews that as it magnifies the required management skills, it becomes very obvious that empathy by far is becoming the most important team leader management skill. There is the person that will actually identify the needs of the people on the team, realize that they are quite diverse. Some people are extroverts, some are introverts, some work better at home, others don't have the office, and tries to put it all together so that they can collaborate productively. The second skill that is really important, magnified nicely, is management by objectives. A good friend of mine said to me, we really need to decide whether we are an organization of timekeepers or an organization by agreements. And it must be the latter in hybrid because the person that's working remotely or asynchronously needs to understand exactly what will make them successful. Articulation of objectives shouldn't be difficult, but it seems to be. And the third thing is that, surprise, surprise, companies are not made from only one function, not just software engineers, not just salespeople. There is a combination of job roles. And each of these requires a different way of applying overall policies. So to conclude, the executives typically, they have blanket policies. They say 3 days in the office, and that's how it's going to be. When in reality, the workers, the team leaders and the workers see that they have to apply them differently to different job roles. I wanted to show you some examples. These are quotes from the interviews I am doing. I wanted to show you some examples how this is really done. Jacopo is actually known to both Jaymes and me. He used to work for us, and he is a wonderful achievement in watching a young man grow in his career. He is a COO in a startup in Florence, in Italy. And he said, unprompted, exactly how he manages in this situation. First of all, he delegates to the team leaders. He doesn't meddle. He lets them run their own offsites. But he also gives guidelines and says, okay, by this job role, you will get together at a certain time, at a certain cadence, and then lets them figure all this out. He will appear later on with another piece of wisdom because I think that he's quite inspired when he's managing in his job. The second person that I wanted to mention is Barry, who is in Indonesia. In Jakarta, where the rentals are huge, so people have very limited space for their offices. Similar situation appears in New York and Sao Paulo and in many places. And so they want to go to a work-provided office, but there are spaces that are limited as well there. So Bernice she said, we have a combination of resources in our company. And we need to show compassion to the people who work in the fields in Indonesia, in heat and rain and working with in the villages. So I have to make sure that I am not going to allow home-based work for the headquarters office people because it would create 2 tiers of involvement. It's empathy at work, right? The last quote I wanted to show you on this topic actually came from a virtual therapist. Gina lives with the downstream of what we are experiencing in hybrid. She deals with workers who suffer anxiety or burnout or just lack of motivation. And she said, again, unprompted, and she's not an organizational behavior specialist, that many teams just don't know how to communicate. And we keep promoting managers that are perpetuating bad habits. And I'm going quite inspired since she's doing it with some comments that experiences in her practice. Now, much is being said about the return to the office. So I just wanted to put some facts out there that actually came from polling uh, the respondents in our study. First of all, and this is true, people feel 38% of them call it more than a third. They feel that something is lost by working remotely. A lot of people say innovation, serendipity, they mentioned the water cooler talk. They say that it's missing and it's impacting productivity. I am not here, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know whether that's beliefs that were guided to us or whether it's real, whether it can be replaced by a skill set. Right now, it's and return to the office is supposed to fix this problem. If you look at the bottom two numbers, right? So, first of all, above a third of people say, yeah, I go to the office, but I know I won't get anything done because there is going to be socialization, a lot of banter, and my work is only done when I am in my home office working remotely. Some go as far as saying, if I have to go to the office, I get up extra early so I can get my work done. The second number, different third, different people, but also one third of people said that they find the office so distracting that once again it impedes their productivity. And empathetic team leaders will figure this out and limit the requirements or provide the right requirements and blend of when to go to the office. In addition to serendipity, people are also mentioning specific tasks, software engineers in particular, backlog grooming, product owners. I need to stand at the whiteboard. Jaymes, you and I used to do that quite a bit, right? Stand with the marker at the whiteboard and fight over what picture we are going to draw in the architecture. Fair point. There are tools for that. It's easier done in face-to-face currently. We either need to skill ourselves up so that we can do it remotely or schedule return to the office for those types of activities. Now, let's look at the middle of it, though. I ask every respondent, if you had your perfect job, how often would you choose to go to the office? Even the ones that have the freedom to work from home 100%, they always say, well, on average, 2 days. They want to be back to the office 2 days a week. They want to have the freedom to be there with the right colleagues when they are there. They want to be able to consult with them. What is really important also is that they all say, yeah, but I need to decide when I do this, and I don't want to stay the whole day. I just want to have a purpose to being in the office and optimize it myself. Excellent. Now, the mandates for returning in the to the office average to 2.5 days. Either companies mandate their people to be there for 2 or 3 days. So it's nearly exactly what the respondents want anyway. They just want to be ordered. They want to go there spontaneously when they are through autonomy and motivation, when they are feeling that they would be more productive there. There's something hiding there that a good team leader would figure out. And one needs to ask for all these policies, which most of them are counterintuitive from a motivation and productivity point of view. For all these policies, one needs to ask why.
Right.
What's behind it? One of the thing I hear a lot from, and I didn't put it in the presentation, I hear a lot from the executive layer of my respondents that they know very well that the flex day, that the day when people are out of the office, is wasted time. It's decrease in productivity, to which I go, A, prove it, and B, I hear no such thing. When I speak to team leaders and team participants, the absolute majority feel that they are more productive when they work from home because they can customize their day and fit everything to their, what Jaymes calls the flow, right? When I am most productive, me personally, it's 5 a.m. in the morning. So don't hold me in the office 9 to 5. Let me work when I can do all my work. And so that's one thing. And the second thing is there are a very small number of respondents who will admit that they relax at home and they are less productive. But there is very few of them. There's only about a 5%, and they are very easily found out. Like a good team leader that manages by objectives rather than by timekeeping discovers these people and either motivates them or helps them find another assignment. And so, what I think about all these policies, I think they are demoralizing, I think they are counterproductive, and I think that they perpetuate the old way of the 1950 factory punch in, punch out philosophy, which intuitively doesn't work for an age of innovation. That's my opinion. Thank you for the question. Now, work-life balance. Funny how it segued into work-life balance. First of all, a myth. Okay, another one of these publicized policies is that work-life balance is a feminist issue. Now that we have hybrid work, we allow women to participate, and it gets into the whole true, absolutely. What I'm observing is that, again, unprompted, more than half of our respondents claim some kind of a need to help dependents. They talk about children, they talk about animals, they talk about elderly parents. They are very keenly interested in blending their work life with their personal life. But they are 50-50 men and women. You know, this is men also worry about taking their kids to school and making sure that everybody's taken care of. It is a critical issue, but let's not shrink it to 50% of the population. The second thing I ask is both mental and physical health, and it varies. Some people are motivated, energized by the office. Other people tell me that being at home is too close to the beer fridge, so they are less healthy. But the majority of them feel healthier when they work remotely. And the ones that used to go to the office 9 to 5 and now they are 100% remote say significant improvement in health, mostly because we can all exercise a little better and organize our lives. This is the productivity issue. I ask them, and it's subjective. Are you more productive at home? A vast majority is. Some need to go to the office to get the extra jolt. And that's, again, for an inspired team leader to look after. Now, I want to give you a quote from Suvik. This is a gentleman in Bangalore. And I asked him about work-life balance. And part of the reason why I love doing these interviews is that somebody teach everyone, 88 interviews, everyone taught me something. And Suvik says, what are you talking about, work-life balance? Work is so important to my life and everybody else says. It just needs to be balanced beautifully and carefully handled as a whole, not distinctly from each other. And there is a lot of government organizations that are trying to institute work-life balance by imposing restrictions on laws and companies. And again, I think that it's a little ham-fisted approach. It will help some. By the way, tied into this is the issue of overwork. There is also a theory that people working from home cannot stop. And Jaymes is nodding because he knows that him and we kind of work all the time. But that's our own problem and it's our choice. And I actually get kicks out of being a workaholic. It doesn't burn me out. It makes me happier. An inspired team leader will monitor their people and will actually say, hey, you are working too hard even though you are remote and I can't see you. And I have had a case of that. I interviewed a lady in Toronto, I think it was, who told me, when I am logged on at night, twice in a week, my boss pings me and says, hey, stop that, take some time off. I want to meet the guy. He's obviously one of the new leaders that can do this. Now, the biggest issue about remote, not the biggest issue, but the biggest controversy is about the video calling, use of camera, and the whole organization of video meetings. So I thought it deserved a slide and a couple of quotes. So about 3/4 of people say that they do keep their camera on, okay? There's a particularly pernicious habit of software developers who somehow, as an internal culture, they tend to keep their cameras off. And there's many theories about why that is. Introversion, working on other documents, sharing documents on screen, so you don't have to have your camera on and so on. But there is a very clear group of people, software engineers and developers, who actually insist on switching off their cameras. Otherwise, people prefer it as a mode of adding the visual into the conversation. There is many policies and many articles out there from not hybrid workers, but from consultants and policy setters who say that being presented on video is exhausting, that companies should be mandating cameras off to help the health of their workers and so on. I don't see any of that in these conversations. What I see is shyness, not being able to be on video with great comfort. And this is probably one of the skills that we really need to address. We need to train our hybrid workforce how to be comfortable on camera. What is the good setup? Don't sit against the window that has the sun shining through it. How do you conduct yourself? There is big questions whether you can eat on camera or not. I am a libertarian. I go, hey, if we were in a conference room, you would be drinking coffee and eating donuts. You just go ahead and have one in front of me on camera. It doesn't bother me, right? But I will also say that what ties into using video or not using, it's just the other way of looking at it, is that a lot of people, almost half of them, say that something is lost from virtual co-working relationships when you are using only camera for video calling. I don't know if it's a skills issue or if it's a personality issue, but I have friends, I don't know what they look like in pants because I have only met them up to here. And we are really close friends. We have been friends for years and we stay in touch regularly and they help me through tough times. There is really sentiment and feeling about that. And I never met them and would love to meet them in person. Don't need to. So I'll give you a couple of quotes about that. Here is Susan. So there is an accomplished industry leader, okay? She's got an incredible TED Talk. She's an author of a book. She's a CEO of an organization that has many thousands of people. And she said, well, the way I was brought up was that on camera, makeup, hair, the whole thing has to be perfect or you don't turn it on, right? And it took me a while to get over it, right? Good point. That may be one of the clues about why people don't want to be on camera. Aidana was very interesting, and she also voiced something that several people talked about. I grew up in the age of teleconferencing, she said. Those three-legged things on the desk, and then somebody clicks a pen at it, and nobody can hear. So she says, I worked very hard to perfect my leadership style using teleconferencing. Then video comes in, and I had to relearn. And I go, okay, great point. And she is fabulous now. But perhaps training is really needed for this, right? From some TV people. Wilton, he used to work for me. And he's a very, very capable gentleman in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. And his English was wanting. So I actually got him lessons. But meanwhile, he says, you switch off the camera, I don't understand, right? I need to see the facial expressions. I need to see the lips moving. Be kind. Think about it. If you are thinking about protecting your own comfort or whatever by switching the camera off, think about Wiltons and all the other people who really benefit from facial expressions. I don't think I put the quote in there, but there is an organizational behavior professor who's in his 80s. And back home in Canada, where I come from, Henry Mintzberg. And he gave a presentation on teaching. He still teaches at the university, teaching during COVID. And he said, in a weird way, I am a better teacher with video than I am in an auditorium, because there I can't see the facial expressions clearly enough, but my students have to have cameras on. And then I see exactly whether I'm getting through to them and whether I should adjust the message. That is a transferable skill that actually goes to using in business. And an inspired team leader needs to take that into account. Okay? All right, and this is back to Jacopo in Florence. it doesn't actually speak about he told me that when he showed up in his company that is heavily engineering based, that nobody was putting cameras on, and he just makes them now. He asks them politely. But he also understands the fatigue that comes with a meeting. Okay, and I want to say two things about this. This is not new. It's just magnifying the old stuff, right? There's nothing worse than a useless meeting. It's demoralizing. Of course, people will turn off their cameras when they don't feel that they should be participating. Jacopo says two things. He actually watches for the purpose for meetings, and he cancels the ones that don't seem to have a purpose. A recurring meeting is great to reserve the time slot, but if you have nothing to say, please cancel it, right? The second thing that he said was he also has a distribution list of people that are invited to his meetings, but he observes participation. And then he says to them, look, if you are not seeing usefulness from this meeting, please leave. It's not obligatory. You don't have to. And that way he increases both motivation and productivity. I will, again, this is not Jacopo's quote, but I remember somebody else telling me, cameras should be on for the benefit and as good etiquette for everybody who participates in the meeting. And if you are exhausted because you have back-to-back meetings, if you feel that you just can't handle all this pressure, please get out of some of these meetings. That bad habit of presenteeism, where we all show how busy we are because there is not a crack of daylight between our meetings, hybrid also magnifies that, and we should probably get more efficient at it. All right, now, the last thing I want to tell you is about the juniors, okay? There is theories out there. So let me just recap what are the major objections to remote. Three major objections. People don't work as hard when they work remotely. I find no evidence of this. The second one is the loss of serendipity. I agree. It's possible that in some cases that is missing. And then let's be very wise about how we organize people to get together and participate in the right intervals. And the third objection is that the juniors suffer. And that has two parts. First of all, the juniors learning new skills and culture, are onboarding them onto a company is alleged to be harder when you are working remotely. And secondly, junior people as well, especially if they come from universities, they are not familiar with the office environment the way we used to. I interviewed Jaymes, by the way, just full disclosure, and I said, so you always worked remotely, right? And he goes, yep, I never went to the office. And I said, so where did you get your skills? Because you're so perfect. You put on the suit, you make a presentation. Where did you get that? And he goes, well, I was a consultant. I went to the customer's offices anyway. So it is true that a junior needs to experience that environment. But I ask you, what are the universities teaching them? You know, why are they equipping them with two habits? One of them is switch off your camera and hide so nobody can see you. And secondly, you just sit passively someplace and you don't know how to participate in the workplace. Maybe it's just a matter of training in some way. Then you won't get promoted or you don't get better jobs. And there is a lot of agreement to that by the people I interview. Again, that goes to management skills, team leader skills, and somebody actually said, if that was the case, I wouldn't want to work for that company. Jacopo, by the way, said that it's not true at all, which is interesting. So let's hear from a junior. This gentleman is going places, okay? He's in Charlotte, working for Ernst & Young. He has been in his job 6 months, I think, straight out of university. He goes to the office all the time because he feels that that improves his skill and he just wants to be there. His biggest regret is that nobody is there because his colleagues are participating in a hybrid style. And what he told me about cameras is baffling to me. I hear it from a lot of young people. I get on the camera when I'm comfortable. In the beginning of a meeting, for example, I banter with my friends with camera on. And then I switch it off for the work portion. And it seems to me that it's completely, and I hear it from people of all ages, not just juniors, but this is particularly jarring from young people who grew up on FaceTime and using devices. Can't figure it out. That's not my job. I just report what's going on. Okay. So let's take care of the juniors because they will become the leaders of, next decade. I wish that we did a better job than, for example, somebody did on me when I was coming through my career. What am I going to do next? First, I need to finish the next 12 interviews. By the way, you are all signed up. Okay, please contact me. Please, I need to interview you to get your input in the set. Okay, that also gives you lifelong access to any research and conclusions that I will do going forward because you will become an invited member of the virtual work call. Secondly, I want to start. I have been researching humans in the trenches. My next target is going to be companies. I will start looking at what companies do, and I have a plan of developing this checklist that will actually rank the hybrid maturity of a company. And I will start ranking companies and hopefully teaching our hybrid work participants about what is the right company for their style of business. Okay, and as I said, I also want to continue the longitudinal study. I'm going to be doing this 10 years from now, hopefully. All right, so here is my contact information. Please come and see me. And if you have any input, I see some nodding and some surprised faces. Would love to hear any of that feedback. Whatever struck you through this presentation, send me an email or just talk to me in the hallway. And thank you for your attention.